I'm back. Now I'm going to show you how to do the designs on the marbles. For instance, okay, we did just the plain marbles, and if you see where this is drying, if you kind of get a weird dry line, we can even put a design on top of this and camouflage it. It's no big deal. And I'm also going to take, let's say this one, maybe this one just has a band around it. You kind of go with the shape of the marble. And then as I go, a lot of times I will embellish it a little bit. Maybe this one will be a little bit simplified. That looks pretty good. And maybe on this one, I kind of like to do these curvy little things where they get little and then they get fat and they get little again. And then maybe we can do one that kind of goes like that. Actually, you can do anything. Kind of fun. So we're going to start on this one. I just kind of drew in a couple funky looking things. This one may even have a line later on. I took my liner on this one, and actually I made some skinnier lines. You can do whatever you want. You can go on top of the color. So on this one, I took some golden yellow and some yellow ochre, and I'm going to show you, even though it has a design, you need to be aware of your light source again. You need to have where it's dark and light. So for instance, I'm not going to do the decorations yet on it, the swirlies, but I am going to get just this area wet. And sometimes it's easier to break up a painting. Okay, so I got this area wet first. And again, I'm going to take, I just took some golden yellow. You can use whatever color you want. And I mix it with some yellow ochre. And I'm just going to lay it on here. And remember, wherever, and I'm working with the number 4 brush. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of fake it. That looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, give it a squeeze with my napkin, and I'm going to see how this is lighter up here. I'm just going to lift a little bit and lighten that up there before it dries. Now I'm going to take the darker yellow, because it would be yellow down here, and I'm going to do that. So you still have that reflection where the sun, where it's a little bit lighter and darker. What do you think? That looks pretty good. Now let's go ahead and do this one. Get it wet. Okay. Take that yellow while I got it wet and just lay it on here. These are real controlled, just fun. You can even just do one big marble if you wanted to. Okay, just do that. So this is kind of nice to compare it. So see this side one? I've got my brush, cleaned it, give it a squeeze, and I'm just going to lighten up here. And so maybe, just maybe, it'll be a little darker right here. Kind of like this guy. That looks great. So see, you still have, just lift that a little bit, your light, and then it goes to dark. So let's say that your sunlight is just hitting that way. That looks pretty good. So I'm not going to tackle this area yet, because it's still, this is still wet. So if I did, I don't want this to run into it. I got to wait for that to dry really quickly. So what I can do while these are drying, I'll go ahead. Here's one. This one's kind of like it, just kind of in a different area. Let's say opposite the color wheel, lavender and yellow, I think, are opposite. So they kind of play off each other. So let's put a little bit of lavender. I've got just some lavender that I had bought straight out of the tube. I'm going to switch to a number 3 brush now because we're working in a little area. And I'm going to make one of the, so we're nice, this one's dry. We'll let that one dry up there. Oh, excuse me, got to get it wet. Get my little area wet. I forgot to do that. I'm working on a number 3. Watch out if you start getting a drip there. Just keep an eye on them, because sometimes they will drip down into your piece when you don't want it to. I'm going to do a fun little lavender. If it's really saturated with water, take your brush, give it a squeeze, and just sop it up. Okay, I'm going to take my lavender, put it on. I got it wet and I put the lavender on, so since I had put the water on first, your paint went on a lot lighter, right? So you have some control. I'm going to go ahead and go pretty strong, and then I'll lift it a little bit. Okay. Take your brush, give it a squeeze so your lightness is going to go over here, so I'm just going to lift this a tiny bit. Maybe lift up here a little bit. Maybe my lavender will be a little stronger here. Another thing you can do, if you don't want to get it wet, you could just have real solid. If you want your color stronger, you don't have to get it wet before you put it down, and it can be more of a solid. Pretty good. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a liner brush really quick if I have enough time, and I'm just going to put a dark line. I'm just going to, same lavender, I've got my liner brush, and I'm just going to do a fun line. Whew. I'm going to follow it and pull it. Yowza. Kind of tighten that up a little bit. Kind of got out of my lines a little bit. I'll just do something like that. That looks pretty cool. All right. See you in the next one.